boy, so there's that.
Yeah, that's true. What's up, everybody? I'm Aaron. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I appreciate you you having me do this. It's if y'all come here regularly, I share damn near every meeting, so I figured I'd take a couple weeks off and give y'all a break before I came to share. And so it's good to see y'all again. For real, it is good to be here. And Beth, yeah, thanks for asking me. She asked me to speak a few weeks ago, and she goes, "You mind sharing your story?" I said, "No, not at all." And she goes, "Don't mess it up. It's my name on the line." I said, I might just bomb on purpose. And she spun around. She goes, "I will beat you up." She goes, "I'm from the country and we don't play like that." And I was like, "I'm just kidding." I was like, "I'll try to." So y'all just kind of humor me as I do my best. But anyway, no, I'm grateful to be here. Like I said, Aaron, alcoholic. Sobriety date, most recent sobriety date is March 29, 2016. I thank God for that day every day, literally every morning, every night. And it's funny, when I was getting sober this time, I'll get into my story in a little bit, but I had lots of struggles, trying to get sober, and it for one reason or another, I just didn't. But anyway, but this time, I'm getting sober, and I called my sponsor, and I was in Florida. I decided to take a solo trip to Florida by myself, and I was in this house with like 4 refrigerators, and frosted mugs, and I was like, I'm gonna drink, and I made some other poor decisions down there that I won't get into, but the point is, I called my sponsor. I said, I'm about to get drunk, and he goes, get your big book. He goes, get out of that house and go to, start reading at the front cover, not page one, not whatever, front cover. And so I go to the Starbucks, and it was packed. There was only one seat in this whole Starbucks, and it was right next to the where the cream is and the sugar before COVID. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting there, my elbows up against it, and I'm pissed. I want to drink, and I'm reading the table of contents in this book, and there's this dude just standing over. He's fixing his drink, and I'm waiting. I'm like, and you can just tell he's weird. He's just standing a little too close, and I'm being for real, and I'm already. And finally, he had been standing there, longer than any reasonable amount of time he should have been, to make a coffee. And I looked up at him. I was like, "Yo, can I help you with something?" And he goes, he grins at me. He goes, "Is that your first time reading that book?" And I thought he was making fun of me because I'm reading it there. I said, and now I'm really pissed. I was like, "Nah, dog." I was like, "I'm doing this for," and he cuts me off. He goes, "I just got a 14-year chip this morning. Just left the meeting." And it was like a sign. But the point is, I'm reading in there. And I'd never read it before, and I think it was in the preface. It says, it's, loosely quoted, but it says, "We hope in reading one of the 42 personal stories, you'll stop and think, yes, that happened to me," or more importantly, "Yes, I felt like that," or most important, "Yes, I believe this can work for me too." And my thing was, I never believed the last two. All the times I tried to get sober, I come into AA, and I can relate to the stories, the rest, the escapades, all that. I got that part. But I truly never believed anyone felt the way I did, and I didn't believe it would work for me. If my family ever got fed up with me and hired some mafioso people to chain me up and hook me up to a lie detector test, put a pistol in my head and say, "Yo, your family's had enough. Why do you continue to get drunk? If the lie detector beeps, you're gone. So you better be." I'd say, "I don't know. I really didn't." And if they said, "Why don't you quit screwing around and just do it?" "I don't know." And if they asked me, if they said, "Do you think you can be sober ever? Do you think it's in the cards for you ever? If it beeps, I die," I'd say, "No, I don't think it's in the cards for me." And I believe that with my whole heart. And it turns out it wasn't true. The whole time I just hadn't been doing what people in multiple different states and multiple different, meetings and all that stuff had been asking me to do. But anyway, so I'll get into my story. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna spare y'all and wrap it up about probably 10 till, so we have time for chips. But there's some points I want to hit. And, my entire life, you hear it in meetings all the time. They'd be like, alcoholics be like, "I just felt different," or, or what, what I'm saying? You've heard all this shit, what I'm saying? I didn't fit in with anybody, whatever. And I swear to God, I can relate to that. What I'm saying? I used to hate, you go to see a psychiatrist, or you're some doctor, you're in rehab, and they're like, "Well, what are your hobbies?" Or they'll say, "What did you enjoy before you started drinking?" And I understand where they're going. They're trying to get you like, "Well, I used to like soccer. Maybe I could, or something like that. Maybe that'll make, I won't drink Steel Reserve if I get a soccer ball," you know what I'm saying? And it just, and I never had an answer to that question. I'd just be like, nothing. I was nervous and didn't really want to be around and didn't like people. I envied people, but I didn't like you. The cool dude or whoever it was, I wasn't a clout. I wasn't hanging on your coattails, you know what I'm saying? I didn't like you. Matter of fact, I hated you, but I wanted to be like you. And I never felt like that, and I was always kind of nervous. and I had a plan my whole life of how I could feel right. And usually it was clothes or a haircut. And when you get older, it's a girl, and then it's a car, and then it's different stuff. And I would get those things my whole life. I always got those things. You know what I'm saying? I was real good at getting what I wanted. And when you get them, it just, if you've ever gotten what you wanted, ask yourself if you're happy now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it never kept me happy. I always joke about it, but it was like ordering off an infomercial. You know what I'm saying? Like, it looks so cool on the TV, and if you're an idiot, you ain't learned your lesson yet, you order it. You know what I'm saying? And then when it comes to your door, you realize you got God. You know, it's and that's kind of like everything I wanted for myself in life. And so anyway, I do want to get sober. I'm going to try to break a record for when I get sober, because I want to talk about stuff that's going on now. But you know, the first time I drank was I was in the 8th grade, and a bunch of my buddies had gotten drunk over the weekend, and I wasn't with them, and they all came back to school on Monday and talked about how cool it was and like how much fun they had. And then all the girls in the class were, you know, like, well, let's do that this weekend, you know, this and that, and like all of this looked good to me. I was like, I need that. And I went home that night on it was a Monday night, and I went and got drunk, and it was some Sky vodka. My dad had a long bar, and I got a bottle of Sky vodka, and I'm taking pulls off it. And my dad was asleep, my brother was in bed, and my mom was on the phone. And I'm taking pulls. I don't know how long it took to get drunk or how much. So I'm going back to my bedroom in between pulls, and it had that little core on it. I don't know if they use those. You know, I'm talking about the little. And I go back to my room in one of the intervals, and when I got up to get another pull, it hit me. You know what I'm saying? If you're a real alcoholic, I don't have to explain it. If you're not an alcoholic, there's no way I could explain it. It was like every dream I ever had, and I genuinely didn't know it was possible for a human being to feel that good. And in that moment, there was no place I would rather be, and there's no one I would have traded places with. My entire life up until that point, you could go to a phone book and open it and just point to something and not let me see it and say, do you want to trade lives with this person? I'd say, yeah, I'd have traded lives with anybody. Everybody looked more comfortable than me. Everybody looked like they had a better, even the geeks, you know what I'm saying, that had no life, like at least they looked comfortable. They didn't, you understand what I'm talking about? Like playing Nintendo, chatting with their mom on Saturday, you know what I'm saying? Like they seemed happier with their little calculator playing, and I wasn't. And that night, I wouldn't have traded with anybody. You could have come to me, you could have said, anyway, you get the point. And I was, I almost said a fast track alcoholic. That sounds, I can't believe I actually just said it instead of just thought it and let it go. But the point is, I started drinking every day. I'd swipe a bottle back then, a 175 would last me out 10 or 11 days. Getting drunk, and I started getting in trouble. Went to treatment at 16, got drunk. Went to treatment at 17, and I actually absconded from treatment when I was 17. And my brother had this. It was, according to the police report, was a Mac 90 assault rifle, and he had it hidden over at a barn my dad owned. And I was over there. I was cutting school one day. Excuse me. Me and my buddy were utilizing some. Outside of, something, not alcohol. And they had caught my brother simultaneously, and they said, we got the dogs, we know you got the gun, tell us where it's at. So he leads them over to the pole barn, and we all get popped for stolen firearm, over 300, trafficking, controlled substance, 1,000 yards of a school, several felonies. And we'd never been in trouble before, so my parents hired an attorney. And when we went to court, she couldn't find a jacket, like there was no case, like in the computer, it got deleted or, not even dismissed, it just wasn't there. And she's like whispering, she's like, I don't know what happened. She's like, the people that do this are human, like wrong buttons get pushed, like it's y'all's lucky day, like get out of here. And the detectives had arrested us. It wasn't like police uniformed officers. So anyway, they knew who we were. Excuse me. I started smoking cigarettes again, and I got to sneak them. You know what I'm saying? Because I have a cigarette. Sometimes I even wear a surgical glove if they're, and then I take. But I have a cigarette, and I run inside, and I wash my hands, and you got to wash up your arms and your face. And then I was out of breath mint, so I've been using Tums, and just come in like I'm not smoking. But the point is. And then I get there, I'm like, Mom, goddamn house, you know what I'm saying? I'm living like, but anyway, But the point is, not long after this stuff, my brother and I, we had targets on our backs. My brother gets in this big accident. He gets 15 years in penitentiary, gone. And I turn 18, and 11 days after I turn 18, I catch a felony. And because of the detectives, remember when we got off scot-free before, they pressed it instead of they gave me diversion, but they wouldn't let me off the felony, and they put me in drug court, and I couldn't stop drinking in drug court, and so drug court sent me to this treatment, and it was this in Kentucky, and it's this hellhole where everybody there is already convicted on state paper, and if you get kicked out of this treatment center and don't complete it, you go straight to penitentiary. Like, you have a revocation, but it's just a formality. You're going. This is it. So they can kind of treat you however they want in there. And I was in there about 5 months. They gave me a furlough, and I love it. They go home and spend the night, figure out what your triggers are going to be. What triggers you. And if you get triggered, write it down. And we're going to help you through that your last 2 weeks. And I said, all right. And I got a mouthwash DUI in a different county. I was drinking Scope, and I rear-ended a car and get a DUI. And I'm not going to tell the part you love, but but the point is, go to penitentiary. And I remember I was in there. There's a few people in here who look like they've been there. No judgment. But the point is, it's a place where you, at least at one point, swear to yourself you're going to change. You know what I'm saying? And they strip you down in the lobby in LaGrange, and literally, and then buzz your head and spray you with the grease, and you're just sitting there and you're like, this ain't no life, man. And but the point is, I get out at midnight. When my time was up, they discharged you at midnight. And my mom came and got me, and we're driving home, and I'm already plotting out. I was like, I'm going to get my buddies to deliver some beer, because I ain't going to get home till like 2 a.m. I'm far away from my dad's house. And I'm thinking about it in my head. My mom's driving, like, so good to see you. I can tell you've been doing push-ups. I'm like, yeah, Mom. Yeah, I have. Went to the dentist, too. And the point, and we get pulled over. There was a speed trap. It was like a 50, and she was doing 60, and it went to 40 automatically, and they hit her for 60 and a 40. And as I'm thinking about getting drunk and how I'm going to get away with it, we get pulled over. And I'm still in my khakis. But it didn't stop me, and I got drunk that night. But the point is, how I'm going to get sober. My brother, in order for him to get out of penitentiary, he had a 15-year sentence, and he had to go through what's called SAP. It's a substance abuse program in the penal system up in Kentucky. And he legitimately got sober. Not absent. Anybody been locked up, you know how that, you can get whatever you want if you got, a little bread and know how to play cards or draw. Oh, one other thing. But the point is, he was legitimately sober, and I came home before he did, and we're both living in my dad's house. We ain't got no jobs. We just fresh out, and I couldn't find my brother, and I'm drinking, and I go in the garage, and he was taking apart my car, and me and my brother, we used to fight like enemies. I've never seen any brothers fight the way we fought. Maybe they do. I don't know a lot of people in this room, but we really fought like enemies, and I saw him taking apart my car, so I couldn't drive, and we get in a fight, and whatever tool he had in his hand from taking apart my car, he stabbed me with it in my dad's garage. And it was very gruesome. It looked like somebody had been shot in there. I got stabbed through my mouth, or in my mouth, and the whole inside of my mouth was hanging out. And so the fight's over, but my dad pulls home, and he pulls in the garage and just sees this. It's all over the doors, and calls the police. His phone in the garage, calls the police. Cops come out in Kentucky's Commonwealth, and I don't know exactly what that means. Like, what I'm saying? I didn't do too well in whatever civics or whatever it is, but they don't like. If Morris got up, well, I don't know. Yeah, don't do this. But if Morris smacked me right now, and there was a cop in here, and they go, Morris, we're going to arrest you for assault, I have the option to be like, look, we're just buddies. I have no hard feelings, and they usually walk away if you're polite. Well, in Kentucky, they don't do that. They just say, nah, we're taking you to jail. You're a nuisance. And I go to jail. And they were going to give me 90 days, and we all went to court as a family, you know what I'm saying, because neither of us had our licenses. And I'm sitting in the hallway, and my brother, the way my brother got sober was the healing place. It's this rehab, it's this mission in Louisville. The dudes who graduated that took steps into the inmates if they weren't felons. And they go, they're talking to my brother, and they go, "We're going to lock your brother up for 90 days. Is that cool with you?" My brother goes, "I don't even want him to. I don't want to press charges at all." And they go, "Well, we are, and you're the victim technically. So what do you want to do?" He goes, "90 days ain't going to do anything." He goes, "You might as well not even give it to him. I can hear him." And they go, "Well, do you want more?" Carries up to 365. And he goes, "No, you don't understand." He goes, "You can put Aaron in jail for as long as you want." He goes, "He's going to come out." He goes, "I guarantee you." I remember it like yesterday. He goes, "When he gets out, he's going to do the same thing. He's going to hurt himself or someone else." And they go, "What do you recommend?" And he said, "Send him to the healing place where, the dudes came from that got him sober." And so I go down there, and I'm there about a month and a half, and I just bounce. I never to this day, I don't understand people who are in treatment that don't want to be in treatment. Like they sit there kind of, it's just like, leave, dog. There ain't no fence. Like, don't look like that and stay. Just go. I ain't gonna shoot you. Like, oh, your PO would be mad. Oh, gangsters. Oh, anyway, the point is, I left, and I just wanted to spend Christmas with my family. And 8 days after I left, I was getting some outside issues delivered to the mailbox. Some things went real bad, and I got in a fight with 3 people. And 2 guys and 1 girl beat the hell out of me. And the cops come out, and I end up going to jail. That's the thing. I always go to jail. I've never been in trouble with other people where anyone went to jail but me. I don't know what it is. And I'm serious. You know what I'm saying? Y'all may not believe it. I put this on my sobriety. It's hard to believe. I know. I tried to get sober 1,000,000 times. Well, that's a lie. Okay, dozens. And there was 5 different times in life where I had some sobriety and decided to drink again and went to jail that same day. On 5 separate occasions. Not 5 times in one day, but 5 times, like, screw it, this sobriety's not all it's ramped up to be. You know what I'm saying? Get a drink in jail that night. 5 different times. So, I go to jail, and I'm looking at, I was a convicted felon, and Kentucky's got PFO offender laws, and I was facing PFO 2, which is 5 calendars, no parole, on top of whatever sentence you get for your crimes. And I had 2 assaults. I had a wanton endangerment and tampering with physical evidence, both felonies at the time. And I was looking at a lot of time. And I didn't even know what wanton endangerment was. It was the second time I got charged with it. But anyone's been locked up, they charge you with everything. And then when you go to court, your lawyer's like, they'll drop everything if you plead guilty to possession. So I didn't even pay attention to my charges. I just wait till I went to court. And so, but it was the second time I got hit with that. I was like, what is wanton endangerment? And the cop looked at me. He goes, blatant disregard for human life. He goes, what you did to him could have killed him. He goes, that's why you're getting charged with it. And it was a big deal. And anyway, I'm convicted felon, court ordered somewhere for assault. I absconded, catch 2 more assaults, 2 felonies. You know what I'm saying? I'm in deep trouble. I had a hole in my face here I'll never forget. I had to plug to smoke a cigarette in the jail garage. And somehow this attorney, Don M., God rest his soul, he did a lot for me, but I sat in jail for a while, and he got me sent back to the healing place. And there was this kid in there that he worked behind the detox desk, and he wasn't he wore pretty sweaters and stuff. I don't even think he was getting and I'm not, I have sweaters, you know what I'm saying? I got bird sweaters. So, hey, if somebody's in a sweater, no, I'm going to get him afterwards. But the point is, I don't even think he was an alcoholic. He knew everyone in detox was emaciated and frail and sick, so he'd kind of be a little slick, you know what I'm saying? Be slick to people from behind the desk, you know what I'm saying? And one day I asked him, I was like, what's your problem, dog? I was like, in case you can't, your eyes don't work. I was like, people in here are struggling. I was like, they don't need some smart ass, you know what I'm saying, giving them crap all the time. And he goes, I don't feel bad for these people, right? And I said, no, obviously not. And he goes, almost everyone that's in here right now, including you, has been in here before. They've been offered the solution. They didn't take it. He goes, they just refused to surrender. He goes, it's not like we live in a country where help and treatment don't exist. He goes, it's not affluent, it's everywhere, you know what I'm saying? And people are just coming in to bum cigarettes and get free meals. And I didn't have nothing to say after that, and anyway, but the point is, I moved down to Nashville through a series of events, and I came here to get sober. I'd been in treatment in and around here 3 different times, and something was different in Nashville, so I come down here to get sober. And I got 9 months, went and got drunk. 3 months, went and got drunk, kept happening, and I wound up in jail about like usual. And I remember I was sitting in there, and I wanted to kill myself, and I wasn't telling anybody. I didn't tell the guards. I didn't tell, I wasn't telling anyone when I got out, because I didn't think AA worked for me. I really didn't. There's another thing you might not believe, but I put it on everything I love. I had spent, within a month or two, 4 years in inpatient treatment. And I know that sounds stupid. You know, when you go to inpatient for a month, I was at the healing place for 16 months. I was at VOA 5 months, Buffalo Valley 5 months, the ranch 5 months, and 2 different stints in Marne, Atlanta 5 months. That's 36 months and 5 treatment. I've been through treatment a bunch. You know, there was a 12-year period where I was incarcerated a little over 8 years in some sort of an institution, whether jail, penitentiary, or halfway house, you know, just off the streets. You know what I'm saying? And my whole life was institutions. There was a period of like 7 or 8 years where I wasn't on the street longer than 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Period. And I got out of jail, and it was just, I was calling people, like my mom, the people close to me, and I was just like, I was going to end it, and I was saying my goodbyes without tipping anybody off. You understand what I'm talking about? And, you know, like, thanks for everything you did for me. I'll never be able to repay you. Anything I can, you know, or whatever. You know, just know I appreciate you. And I guess my sponsor smelled it on me. You know, and he told me to come back to AA. And, you know, my sponsor, something was different because the last relapse I had was 8 months long. And I was in the hospital, I think 12 times in that 8 months. People weren't even 12-stepping me. I was calling them, and they just call mobile crisis, you know, and I don't blame them. Like, don't think I'm, you know. There was a point where I was in the hospital, true story, I was getting booked in St. Thomas West. A real pretty nurse waved to me, and I had dreads that were unmaintained. I hadn't bathed in probably 2 or 3 weeks. You know, I looked like hell. And this nurse was like, "Hey," you know, I'm like, "Am I dreaming?" Like, there ain't no way. And I go in the room, and the charge nurse comes in, and she's a little grouchy. And she's asking me all the questions like history, high blood pressure, or whatever it was. And I was like, I ain't eaten in days. I was like, can I please have a sandwich or just some crackers or something? And she was holding her clipboard writing on it. And she smacks it down on her leg. And she was like, we're not a hotel or a bed and breakfast. You don't just come in here and place your order. And I was like, yeah. I was like, did I do something to offend you? And it turns out it was my 4th time in there in 21 days. And I had no recollection of the previous 3. Mobile crisis was taking me. If you don't have insurance, you're not going to die. You get a bag of fluids and they take you back to your apartment. And that's why they were acting like that. And you know, I started calling the hospital, telling them I was going to kill myself because I knew that got me off the streets. I don't even think I was ever really, really suicidal except for that last time. But I called them and said, I'm going to kill myself. They said, be right there, Mr. Ham. And they'd pick me up, and you keep pulling that, and they take you out to the mental hospital. And if you've ever been I think it's Stewart's Ferry, the Middle Tennessee Institute of Mental Health. You ever been out there? On the 2nd, 3rd, 4th day, you meet with the panel of docs to determine if you're safe to go home. And I'm 13th in line, and there's this girl in front of me, crazy as respectfully. I don't mean, you know, it's a little, the story's a little humorous, but I'm not mocking it. Please understand that. But very crazy, and she goes, I hope they let me go home. She's like, it's a misunderstanding. I'm here. I'm like, what's the misunderstanding, sweetheart? And she goes, well, I told my doctor. She goes, you know, Facebook. She goes, I have a profile picture, and it's of my bedroom. I got a new bedroom, so I took a picture. It's my profile picture. She goes, and God was trying to get a message to me. And she goes, there's a dresser that sits in front of the window of the picture. She goes, he moved the dresser, or she goes, he changed the picture. And I said, just go in here and tell the docs that you were drunk, you were in a blackout, you changed the picture, you forgot about it, now you remember, you're cool. She goes, no. She goes, it wasn't a different picture, it was the same picture. God just rearranged stuff within the picture so the sunlight could come in. And I said, you're getting ready to go double down on that to the doc. And she said, yeah. I remember thinking, I was like, you're never going to see that bedroom again. But the funny, hand to God. Out of 13 people, 12 of them went home, and 1 didn't. The 1 was me. I was in there 3 times in one summer, and they looked straight at me. I was like, you think I'm crazy? I made the mistake of saying something manic. I was like, someone was manic. They're like, funny you should mention manic. I was like, don't give me that shit. But the point is, but anyway, I'll go ahead. But I remember they called my mom, and they put her on speakerphone. Well, anyway, they didn't even tell her I was in the room. They were trying to intimidate me. And they go, Miss Ham, they go, we have your son here. They go, he's not going by any of the rules. They go, we don't need a court order to keep him here. No one needs to say, we can keep him here until he dies. We don't ever have to let him go. And she's looking, the doc's looking at me while she's on speakerphone saying this to my mom. And they go, we need somebody who knows Aaron to talk some sense into him, because he's obviously not listening to, and you just hear my mom sigh in the phone. She goes, oh, on speakerphone. She goes, Aaron's had every consequence you can imagine. She goes, no, it's not, you're not going to scare him. He doesn't care about jail life. He doesn't care about anything. She goes, we've tried for almost 2 decades. Good luck. Sorry, I can't help. And, if I was younger, I would have thought that was cool. I'd have been like, jot that down, bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not doing it, but I know where to go when I just hit him. But the point is, I get out of jail, and when I call my sponsor, I probably could have skipped all that, but I'll tell you them. My sponsor goes, I'm saying my goodbyes. He goes, why don't you just come back to AA? Why don't you just give this a real shot? And I said, bro, do you have any idea how many times I've tried that and failed? And he asked me the magical question that I'm not going to ask you, but I'd ask yourself if I were you, if you're struggling. He goes, have you ever worked all 12 steps? All of it. And I said, that's a dumb question. And I said, I've had several sponsors. I've been in meetings, blah, blah, blah. He goes, that's awesome. That's great. He goes, that's not what I asked you, though. Have you ever worked all 12 steps out of the book exactly like it's written, wholeheartedly, like your life depended on it, all of it, every word, every prayer, every inventory, everything, with the man who's done that before? And I thought about it, and I said, no, actually, now that you mention it, and he cuts me off mid-sentence. He looked me dead in the eye. He goes, I guarantee if you do that, you'll be sober. And I'll never forget it. And, it was the only thing I hadn't tried, you know what I'm saying? And anyway, so luckily, I was just broken enough where I just did that. The fight was beating out of me. I ended up going, they sent me to some state-run treatment center. In Hohenwald, and I started listening to what the people said. It's funny, when I got sober, I had been in jail, penitentiary, rehab, or halfway house, or a combination of. In Louisville, Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, Owensboro, Kentucky, Danville, Kentucky, LaGrange, Kentucky, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, Hohenwald, Tennessee, Burns, Tennessee, Nunnally, Tennessee, Twin Cities, Minnesota, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and Atlanta, Georgia. And every one of those places, somebody would come in and bring a meeting, or they'd take us to a meeting. And you got these guys saying, oh, dude, AA changed my life, 12 steps, what you're talking about? And I'd be like, these jerk-offs, you know what I'm saying? Like, what, would you get a reckless driving charge and weep in here, And then I'd go to a different city in a different state, and people would swear that their lives were horrible, and now they have a job for 3 years and all that, I'd be like, these guys, this last time it hit me, I swear to God, there's either this underground society whose business and mission is just to convince Aaron falsely that AA works. You understand? Like, do you understand what I'm getting at? Like, he's in Minnesota this year. We need to get an agent down there, a good one. Make him look real bummy. Make him. Either that, or all these people were telling the truth, and I just hadn't done it. Like, there's no third option. And it's fun. I remember the first step was a tricky thing for me, because I always came in and I never understood why I went back out and drank. And my sponsor, God love him, he goes, the book talks about you being powerless over the first drink repeatedly. It says, it talks about, like, for reasons yet obscure, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. And he goes through, Fred, he's in the hospital, and they tell him about alcoholism. He goes, man, I appreciate the ideas about the subtle insanity precedes the first drink, but I'm cool. It's a matter of willpower, keeping on guard. Fred gets drunk again. He goes, I now remember my alcoholic friends of prophecy. If I had an alcoholic mind, the time and place would come, I'd drink again. All these things, it's we're without defense against first drink. I never understood that. I thought once I drank, I was screwed, and I had to stay on guard. He goes, man, the book spends 51 pages basically explaining the opposite. He goes, you're powerless over alcohol's call. He goes, have you ever swore you were not going to drink and meant it? I said, oh, yeah. He goes, you stayed sober forever? I said, no, I drank shortly after. He goes, it's all good. You ever swear with all your heart on your mother, on your grandma's grave, you'd rather die than drink again and meant it? Yeah. He goes, do you stay sober forever? I said, no. I drank shortly afterwards. He goes, how many times have you done that? I said, hundreds. He goes, that's the hopeless malady. He goes, why do you think we're trying to connect with a power greater than ourselves in step 2? He goes, because you don't have the power. I never understood. I swear to God, if you'd put a gun to my head, I like that analogy, the gun to the head. I'm probably going to use it again. But he goes, if somebody asked me how to quit drinking before I got sober this time, or how to stay sober in AA, I'd be like, go to meetings and probably a halfway house, and no women of the night, and no, probably don't gamble for a month, and that would have been my answer. I had no idea what I really needed to do, and step 2, was a really funny. I'm not going to go through all the steps, but step 2 was a really funny thing for me. And because I always believed there was a God, but I just didn't believe he was interactive in human lives. And my proof would be to pray for the ceiling to be taller. Pray for it to be cooler in this room, for Christ's sake. You know what I'm saying? Like, pray for anything you want. See if it it's actually pretty cool. And that's an ongoing joke that only I think is funny. But especially, somebody did the air. I did the air, you son of a bitch. I'm just joking, But the point is, I didn't think it worked for me. And this dude said, he goes, man, I'm not suggesting, he goes, you can treat the steps like a science experiment. He goes, I happen to think that there's a God and he works in people's lives when they do this work. He goes, you think it's not true. He goes, let's go through this wholeheartedly and see what happens. Either you're going to be right or I'm going to be right. And I'll be damned if he was right, you know what I mean? And I never thought it could happen. And it's a funny thing. I'll tell you, going through the steps. One other thing I never did was amends. I swear to God, my amends was an ex-girlfriend and my two parents. That was it. I'd call them from rehab. I'd tell my mom I was sorry, and I had ulterior motives for the former. You know what I'm saying? And I really, if you put a gun to my head, I would have told you I made my amends, but I really didn't. And this time around, I made all the amends that were in my face. Funny story. It is funny, but it's really pertinent to AA. Anybody know JT over there? Far from perfect. Far from perfect. And one day, I'm sober, and I'm speaking at 202, and this dude comes up to me, and after the meeting, and he goes, I'm in rehab at Samaritan. He goes, can you help me when I get out? And this dude didn't have two thoughts in his head to contradict one another. You know what I'm saying? Like he was just, I said, absolutely, call me. And so a month or two later, JT calls me and he's down, I love this. Well, anyway, it's not that great of a story. But he's bouncing at Tin Roof, and he's the bouncer, and he calls me, goes, hang out with me down here. I'm bouncing. It'll be a good time. And I'm sober. I think he was too. But this group of kids come up that look kind of underage, and who start taking their IDs. He goes, fake, fake, fake. 5 dudes, 1 girl, and they're all, they're complaining. They're not going to do nothing, but come on, dude, it's like that for real. And JT, he goes, yeah, it's like that for real. He goes, matter of fact, and he hands me the stack of IDs, and he goes, if you want them back, talk to him. Points to me. And I looked at him, I said, what do you want me to do? And he goes, charge them $60 a pop and tell them you'll let them in the club and give their ID back, $60. And I said, what? And he goes, they always pay. And so I charged 5. Hey, I charged 5 of these whatever, out of state, Belmont students, $60 a piece. I made an executive decision to charge a nice young lady only 20, and I had $320. And after it was done, I handed it to JT. I go, here's the dough. And he goes, how much is it? I said $320. He goes, just give me half. And I hadn't planned on that, but or was it 3? Okay, yeah. So we each had 160, and I had 160 as well. And I called Sam the next day, and I was like, dude, I don't feel bad. I don't feel right about something that happened last night. Sam was my sponsor. He goes, what happened? I was like, well, I was hanging out with JT, and we're at Tin Roof. He's like, what happened? I was like, I sort of ended up extorting a group of out-of-state guys. And he goes, it wasn't my plan. I was kind of, I was under pressure. And he goes, you got to give that money back. And I said, JT will think I'm a, And he goes, well, do something good with it. And I put $10 in the church basket one week, and the next week I put $10 in the church basket, so I owned the universe $140. And I'm at work one night, and an unknown number calls me, and I answer it, and it's homeboy from the Samaritan. And he goes, hey man, I just got out tonight. He goes, and they had a halfway house set up for me, but it fell through. And now I can't go there, and I'm on the street. And I get off of work at 11 in Burns. I was like, I'll scoop you, homie. We got you. And I found a halfway house that would take him. And I take this guy, and I get to him at like midnight. We get to this house like 12:30, and they orientate him. And it gets, it's 1:15. I'm in school. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm like, you need to, And finally, they go, all right, you're all in. They go, you just need to pay us now. And he goes, how much? And they go, $300. And he goes, I only got $160 on me. He was $140 short. And that was exactly what I owed. And this was all very quick. And if I hadn't owed that to the universe, I wouldn't have paid it. I'd have been like, I love you, dog. So, you look capable. But I paid it, and it's just fun. It's a bunch of kids in college screwing off their education, fake IDs, lying to their parents, not taking shit seriously, out breaking the rules. That's an unstoppable force, and then JT's collidable, or impenetrable object, or whatever, collide, and he knows how to make a buck off somebody, and those two things came together to get this dude off the streets. And as far as I know, he stayed sober from that, and if I hadn't been set up from that, and it's just funny, like I come in here with the biggest bag of wreckage, like for real, like convicted felon, I need dental work, every meaningful relationship is gone, what I'm saying, like my family don't want to talk to me, what I'm saying, I got nowhere to live, I can't even rent an apartment, like I got no license, I dropped out of my third sophomore year to go to penitentiary, like what? And God says, what I'm saying, you get sober, and now I got all these moms calling me, like, can you please help my son? What I'm saying, I'm in a line of work where all of that comes in uniquely, helpful, what I'm saying, like everything that I thought was bad has a purpose today. And it's not like I'm selling like greeting cards or trying to be, you take people by every statistic, every metric, every societal measure that should be in penitentiary, dead, or wandering the streets, just home, the real low bottoms, and their family won't even talk to them, what I'm saying, and you look at them and their lives are more beautiful than anyone else and it's all just because of what we come in here and do. And anyway, I love this program, but I'm gonna kind of wrap it up. I'm trying to think of I'm gonna cap it in 8 minutes, but I'm trying to think of which direction to go with this. So I'm sober, I'm living the good life, and I was right about to get 2 years sober, and I don't even know if I have time, but I get a call. I'm getting ready to chair a meeting, and my mom is in Atlanta, and she said my brother was getting rushed to the hospital, and they did the next of kin call. And I've had the real deal next of kin call done on me, and he's had the real deal next of kin call done on him before. So I honestly didn't even think much of it. I even asked my sponsor, I was like, should I go up to Louisville? And he goes, yeah, probably. And so I'm driving up there, and my mom texts me, and she misspelled it. She goes, he's dead. And I said, are you serious? She goes, yeah, blunt force trauma. And I said, is Sean dead? And she texts back, yes. And the dude who beat him to death with a tire iron, and this is at my dad's house. My dad was in Florida, and this happened at one of the barns. We always used to go there and fight. That's what everyone did. And my brother's happened at the barn. My brother goes into my dad's house and bled out and died in there. And I pull up to my dad's house, and they got it all taped off, and I was like, where's homeboy at? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. And I was like, no, I'm just curious, is he downtown? Is he in a cop car? I want to know what happened. And they go, and I had asked him 3 or 4 times, he goes, we actually didn't charge the guy. And I was like, what are you talking about? And apparently Kentucky has a stand your ground law where if somebody feels threatened, they don't have to run. They can do whatever they need to do to defend themselves. And you have this guy, on private property, what I'm saying, that was just like his story. And what really, I've done a lot of stuff. If somebody 30 days said to me what I'm about to say to you, I'd be like, he needs to work through that. But my brother was always in trouble, just a thorn in the side of society, always going to jail, 15 years in penitentiary. And it was just kind of looked at as kind of like he got what he had coming to him. The dude was never charged. And I had to make a decision because I know this kid. I've known him for years. And, there's a million different things. I could just go and, my brother was too drunk to walk or talk. He had enough alcohol and Xanax in the system to kill a horse. I could just strangle this motherfucker with my left hand. And anyway, so I'm thinking about that. And I know a lot of people with, no future and, no conscience neither that, I could do, I'm going through all this. And I remember I went to work through it with my sponsor, and he goes, I want you to think of 2 or 3 of the worst things that you've ever done in your entire life, ever. And I thought about them, and he goes, how would you feel if all of society knew about those 2 things? Maybe you bailed on your kids on Christmas, maybe you, not you, but, beat your wife, spit in your mom's face, just something horrible. He goes, how would you feel if everybody knew about that and judged you by it? I said, I wouldn't like that. He goes, with those 2 things, are they an accurate description of who you are? Like if somebody said, oh, you're friends with Aaron Ham, listen to these 2 things he did. That's all you need to know about him. He goes, would that be fair to you? I said, no. And he goes, The important question is, the things that you did me, he goes, do you want justice or mercy for those? I said, well, I want mercy. He goes, well, it's either mercy for everybody on earth or it's justice for everybody on earth, and you're a part of everybody, and you get to pick. My whole life, people were only as good to me as the worst thing they ever did to me. You and me could be buddies for 10 years. You do something I don't like, and we've got real problems. And that was that, you know what I'm saying? But when I make a mistake, it's, oh, you don't understand. I was under a lot of pressure, and I'd take it back if I could. I don't want. And anyway, he goes, pray and ask God what you think you should do about that. And when I pray to God, there's nothing I can take to God, no matter how heinous or how horrible, where God says to me, like, make sure you hold on to that hatred, Aaron. You know, like, you're upset right now, roll it up in a little ball, a little gooey tarry ball, stick it behind your aorta, keep it there for the rest of your life. That hatred won't affect your view of society. It won't leak into your relationships with your family and friends. A little hatred's good for the heart. Hold on. It's never that. It's always forgiveness. And so I worked through that. And that was the only reason I bring that up is this is a pivotal point in my life. I'm a dude that gets caught. I told you how I go to jail. I tried to steal twice in my life. I got caught both times. Red-handed. First time and second. And I'd definitely be in penitentiary right now. And instead, all I try to do, my sponsor stressed to me stuff like love and tolerance of others is our code. Not the people who deserve it. Not the people who are loving and tolerant to me. Or, loving and kind. Everybody. The people who are jerks. The people who are assholes. Especially the people who don't deserve it. He says, obnoxiously, vigorously, and fervently go out of your way to help other people. I don't care who they are. If they're grateful, don't care. If they deserve it, don't care. If you owe them a favor, don't care. They already owe you money, don't care. And I had such a kind of an empty life with all my background and poor credit and, felonious, ongoing, extensive hit, I didn't have much else to do. And all I did was try to be, nice to people and try to be helpful to people. And everything I've touched since then has worked out for me. I'm not a smart enough businessman to be doing as well as I am in business. I'm not a cool enough person to have as many friends as I have in recovery today. I'm not a I'm not, domesticated material. I have a wife and 3 kids, that love me. 3 little boys. Like, everywhere I go, like, people, I don't know. I go to J. Alexander's in Cool Springs, and, like, they think I'm one of them. They're like, how you doing, sir? I'm like, pretty good, But the point is, the people, if I went to out of state, different where I knew nobody, you could show me someone's program, the dude that's there early and cleaning up and the chairs and blah, 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 and being nice to everybody and sharing and do all that. You could just show me that and I'll say, I bet every nickel I've got, he's got a good life. I'm not saying he's wealthy. I bet you he's happy, he's got a good life. The people you ask him, like, how many people you sponsor? Well, one, but he never calls anymore. And they're always kind of griping and bitching and, what I'm saying? They're just, always, and the thing about that is, you can just show me that and I bet you they have a shit life. I bet you understand what I'm talking about. I always tried to have a good life and try to fit in AA once my life was good. And it's the other way around. When I just focus on this, every other area of my life takes care of itself. I had it backwards forever. There's this, I'll close with this. This is kind of corny, but I usually do kind of like a canned speech, as my sponsor calls it. I try to kind of wing it tonight, but one story I really love, I've shared it in here recently, so y'all probably heard it. But the illiterate janitor, and as far as I know, this is not a true story. I don't know, it could be. But there was this janitor, couldn't read and write, got a job fresh out of, 4th grade or whatever, sweeping floors at the factory. Worked there his whole life. The factory's bought out by this big conglomerate, and they need to start producing. The janitors need to do spreadsheets and change, inventory and all this stuff. You read, and the janitor goes, no, I can't do that. I don't know how to read or write. And they said, man, we talked to management. We know that we love you. You've been here 28 years, but we got to let you go. And he goes to apply at Starbucks and Kroger. Can't get a job nowhere. Can't even fill out an application. Family gone. But his hobby was whittling these little figurines out of wood. And one day he's beside himself, can't get a job nowhere. He's whittling one of these things. And a guy comes up, he goes, hey, how much you want for that? And the guy, he goes, I don't really sell them. He goes, well, how much would you take for it? How about $200? The guy goes, okay, sure, screw it, yeah, 200. Sells it, and the dude looks at me and goes, you can make a fortune for those. You can get a couple $100, that's handmade. So he starts selling them, stacking his bread. and gets a duffel bag with a couple $100,000 in it, and decides the mattress ain't no good no more, so he goes to a bank. He walks in a bank and he goes, I got $200,000 in a duffel bag, I want to open an account. And they roll it out. They're like, right this way, sir, come on in. And he's sitting down and the banker's BSing with him, and he goes, so how'd you make this money? He goes, I'm in business for myself. I started it from scratch. I make my own product. The banker's like, that's interesting. He goes, fill this out. We'll get you in a money market account. It's paying in the high 4s now. And the janitor goes, I can't fill that out. He goes, I don't know how to read or write. And the banker goes, wait, whoa. You started your own business from scratch. You're sitting there with 200 G's in a duffel bag and you don't even know how to read or write. He goes, just imagine where you'd be right now if you could. And the janitor goes, I don't have to imagine. I know exactly where I'd be. I'd be at the factory down on 4th and Main sweeping up shit for $8 an hour. I'm so grateful for the life AA has given me, and I'm grateful for everything that brought me here. Thank you so much for having me.